Ticket number 16734. Add scrolling section to the SIL Calc summary. So we're adding scroll bars to the input group, logic solver and output group of the SIL Calc summary. So if we come to the Instrumented Systems module and we come to a SIF and come to the SIL Calc summary template, we have a look at the input groups. We can see we've got a scroll bar here now. Logic solver, it's got its scroll bar. And the output group has got a scroll bar as well. Ticket number 16730, Functional Safety Plan Scheduling Template Report Rendering. So in the Functional Safety Plan object, the scheduling template should display charts of the data in the different phases, identified in the Phases and Steps template. These charts, however, are currently not rendering. So if we come to the Personnel module, and we come down to a Safety Plan, we come to the Scheduling template, we can see that these charts are now rendering correctly. Ticket number 16726, PFDavg Suggestion. So in the SIL Calc Architecture tab, we have a new field called SIL Calc LS External PFD. When it's set to yes, the logic solver section is disabled, and each failure source in the result table uses the external result logic solver PFD value after the update SIL calculations command is executed. So if we come to Instrumented Systems, we come to a SIF and the SIL Calc Architecture tab. Here is the new field, SIL Calc LS External PFD. It's currently set to no. So the logic solver data is as expected. Here we can see the differing logic solver PFD values for prior use, custom failure rate, design basis failure rate, and the external result. If we change this value to a yes and save changes, we should see that the prior use, custom failure rate, and the design basis failure rate are all using the external result for the logic solver PFD. So let's save changes. That's created a pending calculation. So if we run that now, we can see the external result for the logic solver PFD has been copied up into design basis failure rate, custom failure rate, and prior use. And the logic solver area has been disabled. As we can see, it's using the external PFD average. Ticket number 16721. Action Tracker Module Bug LOPA Recommendations. So when a user generates an action item out of the LOPA recommendation, the requested action field only populates with the text LOPA recommendation, whereas ideally it should be populating with the recommendation description. So if we come to the LOPA module, we come to a LOPA worksheet. If we scroll down to the potential risk reduction measures, add a recommendation. Call it sprint test, add a recommendation category and type, save changes. If we now click this button here to add an action item, if we then come to the action item tracker module, and we come to the open action item summary, if we filter on the requested action for sprint, we can see our action item here. If we click on the action item number, we can see that the requested action has pulled through as sprint test. Ticket number 16718, System Module Title Incorrect. So if we come to the System module, we come down to Search Engine and Rebuild Document Index. We can see that the title is now Rebuild Document Index. Previously, this was incorrectly named Rebuild Search Index. Ticket number 16707, LOPA Sheet Not Populating. So the LOPA sheets in the LOPA table are not populating even though the SIF is connected to a barrier that has been applied to the LOPA scenarios. So if we come to Instrumented Systems and we select a SIF, We come to hazard references template. We can see that the LOPA Sheets table is now loading correctly. Ticket number 16688. SIL Verification Report Selected Items Limit. So we've added a limit to the number of items that can be selected in this report. It's limited to 10 items. This will achieve two things. The report content will generate without hitting the browser timeout, and the create WebView URL string length will be acceptable in programs such as Excel. So if we come to Instrumented Systems, come to the SIL Verification Report, we can see we've got a tooltip here that informs the user there's a maximum of 10 items that can be selected. I've selected the top 10 items. If I try and select one more, I get the message informing me that there's a limit of 10. So if I generate this report now, if I create a web view from this report, copy the URL and paste it into a browser window, we can see here a web view of the SIL Verification Report. Ticket number 16659, test deferrals not updating. So we've got three examples here to show the test deferrals. If we look at this test group, we can see that it has three test events in chronological order. So the latest test event was on August the 4th, 2024. For the purpose of this ticket, we're going to assume that all of the test deferrals that come later are all authorized. If we come to the test group, we can see that the last test was August the 4th, 24. We can see that the test interval is 2 months. So the next test due date will be October 3rd, 2024, because it's 2 months on from the last test date. In this second example, we have a test group with a last test date of September the 17th, 24, which will be coming from this one test event, as we can see here, September 17th, 24. But we also have a test deferral that's been approved on this one. So if we look at the test deferral, it was created after the next test due date. We can see the date that it was created. So if the event date of a deferral event is after the last approved test event, the next test due date is calculated using the last test date plus the test deferral period plus the test group interval period. So in this case, the test deferral is a 1 month period. If we come to the test group, we can see that the last test date was September 17th. So if we add the 1 month for the test deferral and we add the 1 year for the test interval, the next test due date is October 16th, 2025. If we update the test deferral to 2 years, we should see the next test due date is actually in 2026. And here we go, we can see that change has taken effect. When there's more than one approved deferral event after the last approved test event, we sum all of the test deferral periods. So in this case, we've got a test deferral period of 1 month for this deferral, another month here. So if we come to the test group, we can see that the last test date, May the 31st, we have a test interval of 1 month. So we've got 2 months from the test deferrals, one for each, and another month for the test interval here for the test group, which takes us up to the next test due date of September the 1st, 2020. If we now add another test deferral, we'll give it a test deferral period of another year, we should see that the next test due date will be in 2021. Let's click Next. Select Functions. Input device, save changes. If we then finalize this test deferral authorization, we then come back to the test group, we can see the next test due date has incremented by the year that we've added by adding a new test deferral. Ticket number 16631. SIL Calc external result source fields are not editable by regular users. If we come to the System module and we come to Manage User Accounts, we've got a Sprint account here that is part of the Assigned Roles Sprint Review. So if we come to Manage Security Roles, if we filter on Sprint Review and Edit, we come to Data Editing, Currently, for all the scopes and all data types, the permission we have is just the view permissions. So in a different browser, if we come to Instrumented Systems, we're logged in with the Sprint user account, and we come to the SIL Calc Architecture tab. If we scroll down, the external result source is not editable. And also, we can't see the Update SIL Calculations button, which will be here next to the Export to PDF. If we come back to our first browser window and we change the permissions to Approve Reject Permissions and click Save, this security role should now have editability on the external data source. So if we come back and we refresh the window, we're still on the SIL Calc Architecture tab. If we scroll to the bottom, we can now edit these fields and click Save. Those changes have saved successfully, and we also now have access to the Update SIL Calcs button. Ticket number 16628, LOPA Applicable IPLs still broken. So the user is having an issue with ticking and unticking applicable IPLs in the LOPA module. So if we come to the LOPA module, we come down to a LOPA worksheet on the Summary tab. We come down to our applicable IPLs. If we check this one and save changes, we can see that that's been successfully saved. We now come and uncheck one of them and save changes again. We can see that that is also saved successfully. Ticket number 16620, sort is not working correctly. So if we come to Operate and Maintain, and we come across the Automated Event Records, we scroll down to the bypasses, which is the table which was not sorting correctly. If we sort on the activation date, we can sort ascending or descending. We can see the earliest being January 13th, 2019, and the latest being September 16th, 2022. You can see we've got some dates for November the 9th in here. So if we filter on that exact date, we get those results. We can also change the filter for everything after that date. And we can see we get those records come through as well. So the filter is now working correctly. Ticket number 16356, mission time field transfer to the input, output and logic solver objects. So we're copying the field parameters to these object types and migrating the field values from the SIF level to the lower object levels. During migration of the data, if multiple SIF objects using the same input, output or logic solver objects, migrate the lowest SIF object field value. So if we come to Instrumented Systems, come down to a SIF, come down to the SIL Calc Architecture. Previously, the mission time could be found here between the SIL Calc notes and the demand mode. If we come down to an input, we can see the mission time down here now, 15 years. We come to a logic solver. We can see the mission time here of 2 years. If we come to an output, we can see a mission time here of 10 years. If we come back to the SIF, come across to the SIL Verification template. We come down to the inputs. We can see the mission time here assigned to each input. Logic solver has the mission time here. And the outputs have their own individually assigned mission times as well. Ticket number 16355, SIF Systematic Capability Check. So we're going to be adding a new field called the Device Systematic Capability. It's going to be against the prior use certificate or generic model. So we're going to enter the SIL value that the device type is capable of achieving as defined by the manufacturer. So if we come to a SIF and we come to the Performance tab, we can see that the target SIL value is a 4 in this example. If we then come to this Input Prior Use Certificate, we can see the new field, the Device Systematic Capability, which is set to a 5. If we come to the Device Usage Certificate tab, we can see it's in here as well, Device Systematic Capability. If we then come back to the SIF, look at the SIL Calc architecture, we come down to the inputs, and we scroll across, we can see the prior use certificate that we just looked at, which is the new input generic model. As you can see here, is a 5, which is a 4 or above, which is required for the SIF. So there's no problem and everything is as you would expect. However, if we come back to the systematic capability field and we set it to a 3, obviously being lower than the 4, which is required, if we then come back to the input and refresh the SIL Calc architecture, come back and look at that certificate, we can see it now has a red background. And if we hover over it, we get a tooltip informing us that the selected device does not meet the systematic capability requirements of the SIF. The same is true for the output. So we've got an output prior use certificate here, systematic capability of 2. It's called the new output generic model. So if we come back to the SIF, close the inputs and expand the outputs, we can see here that the new output generic model, again, is not meeting the minimum SIF target requirement, which is a 4. If we come back to the output and change the device systematic capability to a 4 and save the changes, come back to our output and just refresh the template, we can see that our new output generic model device is meeting the requirements and the background is no longer red. Ticket number 15630. User request for WebView Authentication enhancement to allow for table exporting to Excel and PDF. So we have a user request to be able to print to PDF or export to Excel the WebView tables that are created, and also add a link to the WebView that opens a browser window that allows the user to log in and redirect to the specific view. So if we come to Instrumented Systems and we come to a SIF list, if we create a WebView and we copy it and paste it into the browser window, here is the WebView that we generated. We have the option to export to Excel or PDF. If we export to PDF, here is the PDF that we've exported. If we come back to the browser, we now have a button for SLM login. If we click there, provide our login details, we can see that we're redirected to the WebView data. Ticket number 6738, Project Functionality SSRS Reports. So we provided the functionality for users to print SSRS reports from inside projects. So if we come to the Instrumented Systems module, inside the demo project, we can see that we have 2 SIF objects here. So if we come to the SLM SIF SRS printout, and we navigate to our SIFs, we click generate, we can see that that's been generated successfully. We can now open up and have a scroll through this report that was generated from within a project.